Under the Influence is the 10th episode of Season 8 of Full House. This is directed by John Tracy, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. I will talk about the part of the narrative focusing on Michelle, first of all, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with the outcome, and I will expand on that. And then I will talk about the main narrative, and that focuses on Kimmy and DJ. So it starts off with an introduction that's connected to the main narrative a little bit. I feel like a lot of the earlier cold opens used to just have no relation to the rest of the episode. But quite recently, the openings have actually introduced one of the main narratives immediately, which is not a complaint, just an observation. And Joey is making dinner, and then the boys follow Michelle around. So she tells them, we'll play hide and seek, I'll come and find you after I count to 1,000,000. It turns out Stephanie gave Michelle that trick, because Stephanie did the same thing to Michelle when she was winding Stephanie up the way Nicky and Alex are with Michelle now. And this introduces the part of the story because Michelle is just so fed up of Nicky and Alex getting in the way. Initially, she and Joey and Comet are playing Hungry Hippos, which is the cutest thing ever. And then the boys come in and mess it up and knock the game over. And Michelle gets irritated by this. And she's allowed to be irritated. And now the boys hate her. They actually say they hate Michelle. And needless to say, she's really upset by this. And Jessie tries to teach Nicky and Alex a lesson in forgiveness, which is just the wrong approach. Because they hate Michelle because she was annoyed at their behaviour. And it should really be a lesson for Michelle, learning to forgive Nicky and Alex for their really bad behaviour. It was not terrible behaviour, but certainly they had no respect for her or her things or her environment, and they are the ones who need to learn a lesson. And maybe the lesson could have been directed more at Michelle to forgive Nicky and Alex, because they didn't necessarily do it on purpose. They didn't run down the stairs and say, right, today we're going to smash up Michelle's things. So I really feel like the show is giving a really terrible message, that Michelle was in the wrong for feeling the way she did about Nicky and Alex's unacceptable behaviour. And I really hate it. I think it's disgusting. They're basically saying that Nicky and Alex did nothing wrong, and that Michelle was wrong to feel the way she did. And that's not acceptable. However, it does give us an absolutely fabulous scene because, as I said, Jessie is trying to teach Nicky and Alex about forgiveness, which is not the lesson here, but nevertheless. And he's using one of Joey's flounder tarts. And then Joey ends up smushing the fish into Jessie's face, which is disgusting. And then Jessie pours the fish goo down Joey's shirt, and it's absolute chaos as Joey gets a whisk, an electric whisk, and he's about to obviously whisk Jessie's butt, but Becky jumps in between them at that moment, and it's just chaotic. Jessie still has fish on his face, and Becky has leapt into the middle, and it's so funny, and it's an absolute joy. It's a really brilliant scene. And then Michelle apologises. Absolutely disgusting. Because she did nothing wrong. And the boys were not giving her any space. They ruined her game. And then they played the victim. Obviously, they're too young to be manipulative in that sense. But they're the ones playing the victim. Oh, we hate Michelle because she was mean to us. Because she was upset that we ruined her game. And that's unacceptable. They were taught the wrong lesson. Yes, forgiveness is an important lesson, but that's not the lesson they should have been taught. They should have been taught respect and manners, and to understand that if you hurt somebody, they're allowed to express those feelings, as Michelle did. So I actually am kind of disgusted that the show took this approach, and it really, really annoyed me. However, we'll move on to DJ and Kimmy. DJ and Kimmy are going out to a party. There are going to be some college kids there. And Danny approaches it correctly, in my opinion. He tells DJ, I trust you. I know you'll make the right decisions. But, well, he says, the guy who created Love Boat will not be there. Which makes sense when you watch the scenes before it. But to DJ and Kimmy, it was absolutely baffling. And it was a really great moment. And then they go out and come back sometime later, and Kimmy is drunk. DJ isn't. She hasn't had anything to drink. But Kimmy's very drunk. And we cut pretty quickly to the following morning. And Kimmy said that DJ ruined her life. And we then get a flashback to Kimmy's version of events. And I think they did a good job of making Kimmy's storytelling very over the top. Her behaviour, the voice she was putting on, it was very unrealistic and made it very clear that what Kimmy was remembering was probably not how things actually played out, which I thought was a really good decision. I think it worked really, really well. And obviously DJ is really annoyed that Kimmy said she ruined her life because she helped her. She saved her from some real embarrassment and also potentially saved her life, which we'll come on to in a little bit. So they break up their friendship. They're no longer friends, and DJ even tells Danny she doesn't care about seeing Kimmy now, and DJ had thought Danny would be really annoyed at Kimmy for drinking, and Kimmy would never be allowed to come over to the house again, but obviously they're not friends now, so DJ was happy to tell Danny. But Danny, to his credit, told DJ that it's a friendship that you have, and I guess he realised that they are growing up, and sure, they're too young to be drinking, but he realised that at some point it's going to happen, and that's not necessarily a reason to push Kimmy away. And DJ goes outside, and it just so happens that Kimmy's there. She's on a lounger in the Tanner's garden, and she tells Kimmy what really happened. And we see this unfolding on screen, and Kimmy was very drunk, behaving in a way that was just awkward and uncomfortable and embarrassing. And then at the end of the night, she was going to leave. She was going to drive herself away. And DJ said something that just cut through the atmosphere. And it's almost like everything just froze for a second when she said this. As she says, and I quote, "My mom died because of a drunk driver. I wasn't going to lose my best friend in the same way." And those words were just so powerful. And as I said, it just for a split second, it's just like everything was frozen. And of course, Kimmy very quickly realises that, yes, that's true, and yes, that could have happened, and they make up, and it's really lovely. And we learn that actually Kimmy got really drunk because she was really nervous. And DJ gave her a bit of a pep talk on how to handle nerves, and it was a nice way to end things. Like, there are some great messages in there. 1, don't get really drunk because you will make a fool of yourself. 2, if you do get drunk, don't try and drive yourself. 3, if you are nervous, there are ways to handle those. And to handle those nerves, and I think there are a lot of great things to offer there, which helps to balance it out because we have some really terrible, disgusting messages with Jesse and Nicky and Alex. I was really, really disappointed with how they handled that, and basically blamed Michelle for everything. Oh, it's Michelle that needs to be forgiven. How dare Michelle get upset at Nicky and Alex? It's absolutely disgusting. But thankfully, we have some really great messages with DJ and Kimmy. So it does balance out. And ultimately, Under the Influence is a pretty strong episode of Full House.